So if they're trying to get back into sport, and I'm sure that any weekend warriors that have done this, where they start initially, like they've played sport all their life, family commitments, whatever it may be, uni, school comes up, they don't do anything. The biggest issue that comes on is I want to do all that, build myself up to this point, take a massive break, and then reintroduce everything from that point. Injuries straight away. There's very, very, very few people that actually want to do it for the sake of just simply getting better. You will get those people, but initially they will be injured first, and then they'll realize, shit, I can get even better than what I was previously by incorporating this training that's got me from rehab to performance to I'm actually going to improve.
So you're saying that there's probably a lot of bad ankles around there that are just being managed.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the most, whenever we do any kind of program, whether it be knees, whether it be hips, lower back, we always start from the ankles. If you have not got a good base of support, it's a chain. The body's susceptible to injury, whether that be knees, hips, lower back, shoulders in some case, because that's the first point of contact with the ground. You can have a Ferrari, but if you've got some shit tires that got holes in them, your car's eventually going to break down.
Yeah, especially for... Hi mate, this is Adam and welcome to the third episode of the Movement Therapy Podcast, where we help you return to the gym and stay there, okay? So we've got a very special guest on today. I know him as Mickey. I won't try to pronounce his last name. He's gonna let me know just after this, but we go way back with this guy because I think his business kind of started at the same time that you did. So in 2017, something like that.
I think it was about 3.5 years ago, pretty much to the day.
And that's how long I've been doing my business, how long I've been doing movement therapy. Just so keen to have you on here, man. Welcome. So the gym's changed quite a bit since you last been here. So I've made a few upgrades and
definitely, that's for sure.
And we've got Mickey's approval, so it's definitely, we've got the curl bar in the side there. So
you pretty much got every single bar for biceps and everything else. In order, but no, it definitely does look like it's improved a fair bit.
Definitely.
You started out raw. You started out very raw. You had some mats, some rings, a few barbells.
We've still got the rings there, so yeah.
And you didn't have all this lighting set up as well for this.
Not when you first dropped in. I think the lighting's kind of new. So, but yeah, it's going pretty well. But it's really cool to have you on here. So we'll kick off. We'll just so we know that you run Australian Athletic Centre. Yep. Tell me, before you go into what you do there, just tell me exactly what's your background with your study and stuff like that.
Okay, so I did exercise physiology through Uni SA. Yep. I started off in human movement the first year, and then they had this great new course that came out called exercise physiology. So not knowing what it was, I'm like, yep, it's a 4th year guaranteed. I'll happily take that. So I applied, and I think there was about 20 students that went through from human movement into 2nd year exercise physiology. Okay. It was more rehab based. So it was taking pretty much all exercise that we do for healthy populations, and then now integrating that in a more rehab sense. So whether that be musculoskeletal, neuro, metabolic, cardiovascular, and I started to take a liking, especially to musculoskeletal. But at the same time, I didn't want to work with that specific clientele. What I mean by that is usually you're going to be working in nursing homes, you're going to be working with older populations. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
I just love sport.
Yeah.
So I wanted to really get around sport, and I'd already been working in the industry for a couple of years throughout that process. And I wanted to be able to go, all right, I want to take this rehab knowledge and apply it in a sporting sense.
Great.
And as far as I'm aware, there still wasn't anything specific to that in South Australia. So I'm like, there might be a niche in the market.
Okay. And that's where it led on to starting your own thing and...
Well, not straight away. I was working...
you would have had a bit of... Yeah. So you kind of dipped your toes in that a bit more kind of...
So I was working at a private gym with sporting athletes, not necessarily in a rehab context, but I was working with sporting athletes for the last few years of university. And then I eventually ended up leaving that right around the time that I had finished uni too. So it was that was my first venture into working for myself, entrepreneurship, just doing PT.
Yeah.
Bit of a scary moment as well.
It always, yeah.
And you think straight away getting out of uni, I'm going to have a massive amount of clientele. It's going to be easy. People are going to be coming to me. I'm an exercise physiologist. I'm not just a PT. Easy. I'll be able to charge whatever I want.
Sure.
Sounds fantastic. Probably for about the first 3 months outside of uni, I think I was training one person a week.
Yep.
And that was just a good mate because he was willing to lend a hand. And I was like, fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember I went to Hawaii. I took a holiday there for about a week and I got 2 phone calls as I was there. One to work at a local footy club and one as part of a commercial gym that had just opened. And I put my name there to hopefully work behind the desk. Okay. Both of them ended up panning out very, very nicely.
Yeah.
Where I would be able to get experience working with athletes themselves, and I would also get exposed to working in more of a sales role. I was still working in the health and fitness area, but I was working more of a sales role during that time. But also taught me how to talk to people.
The communication's huge. Yeah.
You don't, unless you're actually working individually one-on-one with people or working with groups, communication, it's like, you need to have it, but no one tells you that you need to have it until you actually start working with people. And I'm sure that you know yourself, unless you can build that connection with someone, they're not going to trust you no matter what you know about exercise, no matter what you know about rehabbing their pain. They're just literally going to give you nothing.
Yeah, it's all in the delivery. Like, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then, because I know you did, and then I suppose fast forward to what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So you open up Australian Athletic Centre 2017. Tell us a bit about what you do there, what the type of clientele you get in that place.
So we opened up in 2017 and that was probably a couple of years after I already worked in those 2 roles.
Yeah, cool.
And what we do there specifically is performance and rehabilitation for athletes going from 6 years old and older from there.
That's so you do
for
the kid stuff too,
adolescents, healthy adults, rehab clients, and we've ventured into doing a little bit more general pop and a few younger kids at the same time. Okay. But really, we're there for performance and we're there for rehab. If they're there for rehab, we're hoping that it coincides with them going to performance after that.
Yeah. You can't. I feel like you just can't have one without the other, though.
Nah, definitely. Well, the curse of our job and also the beautiful thing about it is the fact that majority of people, as much as we love to see them healthy so we can prevent or try help prevent injuries as much as possible, they come to us hurt. 90% of the people that walk in there are already injured.
Yes,
If we could work with them prior to that, I always say, why didn't you come here before that happened? It's because until someone goes through some kind of pain or some kind of serious incident, this goes for sporting athletes and just everyone in general.
Everyone.
They're not going to take action on it.
No, it's not a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah. People with the worst cardio conditions, they could be overweight, whatever it may be, until they have a heart attack or something seriously happens, they're not going to care about their health and fitness because they're going to be like, nah, I'll solve it later. Solve later, nothing will happen, nothing happens to me, nothing's ever happened to me. And then it does, all of a sudden they want to take action.
And shit gets serious.
You just take that and pretty much put that into a sporting sense. I'm young, fit and healthy. I'll never do an injury, doesn't matter. I haven't done anything then. And then you have a 15, 16, maybe a 30-year-old do a knee. Shit, I have to sit out 12 months on the sideline. I can't go to work. What am I going to do about it? I need to take action on it. Welcome to AAC.
That's it. That's good. And I suppose with that's what you're doing with the adolescents and 6-year-olds is trying to get them not having to reach that limit. Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
and it's become as much as it has become that, it's been disguising what we would go to exercise in play. A 6-year-old does not want to know that they have 3 sets of 10 to do or on a push-up, squat, whatever it may be.
No.
We incorporate all of that, don't get me wrong. We don't need to tell them about it though.
Yeah.
We make sure that it's more of a playful environment, and it's probably one of the few gyms in South Australia that can incorporate both adult training, adolescent training, where it's really, really structured to an unstructured, chaotic 6-year-old or 7-year-old playing around, but it's still exercise just disguised in that play. And what we're trying to promote there, as much as we are trying to improve their physical performance, it's that mentality of not being afraid to try new things either.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Adults are hard to work with because they're scared of trying new things. I'm scared of trying new things. I don't know how you are, but I hate trying new things sometimes.
Yeah.
Kids, it's nature versus nurture. They're going to see that from their parents. They're going to see that from older siblings where they're, a little bit hesitant to do something. So they might act that way.
Yeah.
So we're going to throw them in the deep end and make them try do new things, handstands, hanging off bars, chin-ups, in a safe environment as possible. Kids are going to get hurt no matter what.
Yes, that's it.
It's going to happen. But if you can teach them to not hesitate and actually be able to throw their body around, the chance of them getting hurt is going to be less.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to try new sports. They're going to want to try and engage with other kids. They're going to want to try new things. And honestly, if they don't make it as a sporting athlete, we don't care.
No. They'll just be a more confident human being.
They might get a successful job because they've tried new things. Totally. If they don't apply for that job, if they don't go down that path of actually trying to do something, because they're too scared of failure.
Yeah.
Failure is awesome because you learn from it every single time. And we want to teach them that it's okay sometimes to not be able to do something the first time, second time, third time, 100th time. But if you get it right once, this overall satisfaction of that is amazing.
Yeah, that's it. And you kind of give the analogy of I suppose going deep into something like that. That's why I like the gym. It's like constant failure over and over and over again. Absolutely. But that's the only way you get better,
Yep.
Not say you should train to failure all the time though, but it's, you're constantly doing the same thing over and over. And, you're trying to get a technique down, trying to get a skill down, failing, but you're a little bit better next week. A little bit better.
Our mentality is be a little bit less shit every single day.
That's it, a little bit less shit.
You don't have to be the best in the world.
But expect to be shit at the start, right?
You have to.
Yeah.
And as long as you're trying to improve it, you don't have to compare yourself to everyone unless you're looking to, I don't know. If you look to get on stage for a bodybuilding contest, yes, you're going to compare yourself to others. But just be a little bit better than what you are the previous day. Is it going to happen every single day? No. That's okay.
No, that's all right.
Do it the next day. Next day. And eventually that, I guess, long-term consistency is what actually is going to get you towards whatever your goal is.
That's it. And with that consistency being there, you'll know if what you're doing is working quicker or you'll know if it's not working quicker.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you've got all this training blah, blah, blah all over the place. You won't know what's going on.
If you have inconsistent training, you're going to have inconsistent results.
That's it. Mixed results, and it's just confusing.
Yeah,
that's it. So, cool. So I suppose you're getting quite a broad range of clientele that walks through your doors. Like you got people from 6 years old up to, what's your oldest client, you reckon?
Oh, they're pushing their 60s.
60s, yep. So something like that. But it's all kind of based around sporty sort of stuff, which is something that I kind of I dabble a little bit on it, but I'm not. To be honest, the only thing I got into personal training was just to train, just to look better and stuff like that. I don't really watch sports that much unless it's coming to like gymnastics and all that sort of stuff. So it's really good to have someone like you on here, so I can ask you some sporty sort of questions about sports, and that's what we're going to get deep into. So before we do that, so as we already kicked off a bit about rehab and injuries and stuff like that. What's been your experience with past injuries and issues? What have you kind of, run through your training life?
I hate to say it, but I'm not the most injured person in the world.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, I've probably had patella tendinopathies have been probably my biggest. I've had a few lower back pain issues. But aside from that, I've had some dislocated fingers from volleyball and all. But I was never the most injured person. So when you trickle back down the path, it's not that I was ever the most injured person going through sport at an early age. It was the fact that I was just a shit athlete. So I wanted to do everything in my power to get myself better. And that's where I started to develop that.
So you're very proactive.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, there's very, very, very few people that actually want to do it for the sake of just simply getting better. You will get those people, but initially, they will be injured first, and then they'll realize, shit, I can get even better than what I was previously by incorporating this training that's got me from rehab to performance to I'm actually going to improve.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I've gone through this whole process of exercise physiology, dealing with a lot of rehab athletes. It's not the fact that I got in there for the sake of I needed to rehab an injury. I was just very, very terrible at being an athlete. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be as good as I could.
That's it. And it's just, that's a really good example because I keep telling people it's the rehab stuff isn't just for getting out of pain or issue. It's for what you did. It's for increasing performance, getting better. You don't have to just always hammer performance all the time just focus on those like basic sort of stuff, and that, trickles up to performance. So it's, it's really cool that that's how you got into it. So cool, man. So obviously, injury hasn't been a big issue for you because you've been proactive. So
I'd like to think so.
You'd like to okay. Now.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look.
Yeah. Is it because you don't push yourself hard enough?
Who knows? I'm too weak, too unathletic to actually pick up. I don't sprint fast enough to pull a hammy. I don't lift heavy enough to do it. Look, I don't know.
Just play it safe. That's it.
I'm hoping that that's the reason why, and I'm going to preach that that's the reason why.
Okay,
but to say that it's the be-all and end-all behind, no, I'm not going to claim that. But is it going to hurt? Absolutely not.
Yeah. So you're saying by not doing your 1 RM every week, you've prevented injury until now?
You never know. If you go into the gym and simply just see how much you can lift, especially for sporting athletes, that is the dumbest thing and the quickest way to injury as possible.
I was going to ask what that's a good answer. Yeah.
I can't remember the last time we've had someone lift a 1 RM. That actually was in the middle of a sporting season, or even doing it for preseason.
Yeah.
There are so many other ways that we actually measure all those metrics, whether it be top sprint speed over 20 meters. How much force they can put through some force platforms that we have.
Yeah.
And then also how strong their hamstrings, adductors, abductors, and shoulders are. We have quite a bit of equipment over there from Fusion Sport and Valve Performance that we're starting to incorporate more. It means that we can gauge some numbers from the athlete themselves without having to put them through an absolute exhausting test battery.
Yeah.
And also it's the safest method possible for them too.
Yeah. So do you, I suppose like, because I've seen this sort of stuff you've been putting on Instagram where you're testing like, external rotation in the hips and the upper body. Like, do you feel like, I know, as an athlete, you need to, you got to have strength, right? Mm-hmm. Is it that, like for people out there that don't have all this equipment, like doing a 5 rep max or doing a, 3 or low rep max, is it, how useful is it for like some of the amateur athletes out there?
It depends on what you're looking to do.
Yeah.
If you're telling me that a soccer player needs to know what their 5 repetition max bench press is, I'll go, why? Cool, they need upper body strength. I guarantee you, I know they need upper body strength. Is the best bench press the best way to measure that? No. The reason why majority of places use it is because it's simple.
Yeah.
The NFL Combine at the moment does 100 kilos to see how many reps they can do on bench press.
Okay.
Because it's what they've always done.
Oh, okay.
What performance, they might be a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really mean shit all when you look at the grand scheme of things. Their vertical jump tells me something. Their sprint tells me something.
Yes.
But how much they can lift, why don't they do a 1 RM deadlift?
Yeah.
Because it's useless, but they've just gotten used to using those methodologies. So for sporting athletes necessarily, it might not be the be all and end all test. It's good. It's simple for us because it's a measure and it tells us, are they getting better?
Yeah.
But what are they getting better at? They might be able to lift more.
Yeah.
Are they actually getting stronger themselves?
Yeah.
And that's where that's where the sports science side of things, where we can use a few fancy piece of equipment, if you will, actually lets us go into the nitty gritty versus just hoping that because their deadlift has gone up,
that it's going to transfer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For us, in regards to squat and deadlift, once we get to about 1 point, depending on the sport and the athlete, once they get to about 1.5 times their body weight, we pretty much call it a day there.
Yeah.
And that's rare that they'll even get up to that. Why? Because it's not necessary for them to be lifting that amount of load, especially if you go through something like a footy player.
Yeah.
Their season is tough. If you've ever played foot, for all the footy players out there, that anyone that's gone through a season, I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't, no.
But they come into the gym and they are battered, and it's not because of the simple fact that they haven't trained hard enough in the preseason or anything. Footy's just tough to fucking play, man.
Or rugby, any of those contact sports.
Absolutely. You are battered. So them lifting heavy throughout the season, absolutely silly. They might be able to sneak in there, and we call it the 6-week window where they have an off season, but after the season's finished and before they need to start their own preseason. But that's not taking into account the fact that some of them need to get some surgeries to fix up a few things either. Or the fact that they might want to go on a 2-week bender to Bali or wherever it may be. Not during COVID times, obviously. But you've got to account for all those things. So lifting necessarily heavy when they have so many other commitments they have to do, whether it be skills, running, other injury preventions, is where they're going to focus their time on, not to see, let's see what we can lift in the gym today. Okay. You can lift stuff well. You don't need to lift the heaviest though.
No. Okay, yeah. So you definitely want to, stay below that kind of RPE of like, 9 to 10, I suppose.
They'll never go to that. There's just no point of going to that exertion because they need to be able to...
Especially during the season though.
They need to go through that in a sprint effort when they go through in training, or if they're not going through that, we'll take them in to actually do that sprint effort because that's known to help prevent hamstring injuries. They need to be exposed to that throughout the week so that they can then play.
Yeah.
But their lifting, I'm not saying that it's not going to be beneficial to them, but it's not the most important part of their week.
Okay, cool. That's a really good point. So, so suppose what do you see, like, what's the most common injury that you see come through your door?
Come through the door? Mm-hmm. It's usually going to be knees, and that's because we've got a huge ACL focus. I would, honestly, if you look at what is the most commonly injured joint, it's going to be the ankles.
Okay.
Sprained ankles, rolled ankles, and then you have a lot more serious injuries when it comes to ankle injuries. But when you look at basketball, soccer, footy, you're going to get rolled ankles all the time. And because they're not as severe majority of the time, it's probably going to be about a 2, 3, 4 week injury at the very most.
Yeah.
Sprained ankle, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
People would just lay it off and say that's cool.
Yeah.
But then they might get a syndesmosis or they might get a fractured ankle, and it's a little bit more of a time period where they need to be sitting out. But those are the rarer ankle injuries.
Okay, yeah.
Knees would probably be the biggest because people know that it's 12 months. It's pretty much certain that it's going to be at least 12 months of rehab. So they're like, how do I prevent this from happening again? If you got told that you're not allowed to lift for 12 months, because that's essentially your lifting is their sport. That's how much they care about.
Yeah.
They can lift, but it's still not their sport that they're playing. If I told you right now you got an injury and you're not allowed to lift for 12 months, what would you say?
Oh, man, I'd say, yeah. Well, I'd say you're crazy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
But you have to sit out for 2 or 3 weeks. But you cop it.
Yeah, cop it. Yeah, you do this 3
You're
weeks.
not going to do anything.
Because you feel like that's the best thing, right?
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
So that means that they won't take much action on it.
Okay, yeah. So you're saying that there's probably a lot of bad ankles around there that are just being managed.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the most, whenever we do any kind of program, whether it be knees, whether it be hips, lower back, we always start from the ankles. If you have not got a good base of support, it's a chain. The body's susceptible to injury, whether that be knees, hips, lower back, shoulders in some case, because that's the first point of contact with the ground. You can have a Ferrari, but if you've got some shit tires that got holes in them, your car's eventually going to break down.
Yeah, especially for athletic sports. I feel like you can get around that with like, heavy lifting and stuff. But yeah, if you're running around on your feet and turning and cutting and stuff like that, it's
so important. They need to be robust. They need to be able to make sure that they're sturdy enough, but also be able to produce enough power and have that elasticity to them that you can actually still make huge sprint efforts, make changes of direction, and
okay. Yeah, that's kind of surprised me. I never really... Yeah, that's good.
Glutes and hips were the be-all and end-all when it comes... Well, like a decade ago, if you ask anyone, injury prevention, if you want to prevent knees, if you want to prevent lower back pain, build your glutes,
focus
build
on
your glutes.
Stuff. Yeah.
We've scrapped that so far. Getting a big glute bridge could not concern the life out of me. We'll still, don't get me wrong, we will still work glutes, and if it's a really, really weak area, we will make sure that we look after them.
Yeah.
But ankles are always going to be the number one.
Okay.
That is the first point of contact with the ground, and we look at making sure that they're able to produce force through there, and they're also able to be pretty robust. So if they are going to roll it, they're going to be pretty sturdy before they can roll it.
Mobile, stable.
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's it's really interesting, man. So like what, I suppose with, because we touched base on you saying about, heavy lifting not being like a real importance, like for an athlete. If you're like talking like to someone who's like a guy who's doing footy on the weekend, someone who's like, maybe not someone who comes into your gym, like just someone who plays footy on the weekend, goes to the gym a little bit. Yeah. They got that little bit of time between training sessions. Like what should they do in those training sessions? What should they put that as the most importance? Like if they're strapped for time.
It depends on what their availability is and how many times they're training footy a week.
Yeah.
You can still get everything out of it by training 2-3 times a week, and you can do all global movements. You just don't have to load them up as much.
Okay.
If you need your legs to be pretty fresh for training the next day, you can still do a few goblet squats, a few lunges. Keep it nice and simple.
Yep.
Get that out of the way. Don't do anything huge amount of volume. Get in your upper body work, whether that be a horizontal push-pull, vertical push-pull. You can easily get 2 full body sessions in a week. If you get a third, bonus. Just making sure that you're fresh enough for your trainings.
Okay. So are you saying they should skip the bicep curls? Or
definitely not skip the bicep curls. You need to include the bicep curls.
Is that what
you need to include the bicep curls.
All right, there you go. Yeah. All right, cool. So I suppose, so it's just kind of just getting this, just through, like I said, just normal range of motion sort of stuff, but not going like super hard so that he's still fresh for the sessions, I suppose.
Look.
Is it kind of, or is it?
It depends on what your number one goal is.
It depends.
If your goal is footy, number one, your lifting isn't going to be the most intense thing in the world. If your lifting is the more the goal, and your aesthetics or your strength is more the goal.
I'm saying more for someone who's like just lifts to make their footy a bit better, like because they just want to play footy on the weekends.
2 to 3 times a week is still fantastic, and they can go at that 75 to 80%. But majority of people aren't already even training at that level.
Yeah,
the majority are probably training 50 to 60%, and that's rubbish. That's not even pushing yourself. That's called, going in there. You're looking at your phone majority of the whole time. Look in the mirror, and then you lift a little bit. You think you're exhausted. 5 minutes later, you're out the door. Give yourself a little bit of effort. If you're not sweating, if you're not huffing and puffing by the time that you've walked out, you probably haven't done anything.
And
it's okay to push yourself a little bit.
Definitely. And I suppose, because they can do, at least they're getting a bit of strength work done there, and then they can do the skills and the aerobic stuff.
It's very easy to fit it in. You've got 7 days throughout the week. If you're resting one day after footy, cool. You can use the next day to lift, probably even train on the same day. And then you've got another 4 or 5 days up until you have there. You have plenty of time to incorporate 2 to 3 lifting sessions, even with footy on top of that.
Okay, cool. So I suppose we've, we spoke a bit about, what you're doing in the season, talking about not going too hard during that. What's a good preseason? What is that kind of, when we're talking about preseason, what ideally would you incorporate in something like that?
Depends on the sport. Give me an idea.
Let's say we've just been talking about footy mainly. So let's just stick to footy.
Yeah. What will we incorporate?
Yeah. What would it, I suppose, when someone says, I want to do preseason for footy, what's going through your head? What do they need to do? Or what are the basics they want to get down?
It's going to be depending on who comes in. Let's hypothetically say someone comes in completely fresh.
Yep.
Then we actually have a little bit of time to spend on strength when it comes to the first 6 weeks before they start running. We actually discussed this probably about a month ago.
Yep.
But for 6 weeks that we have them there, we can actually load them up and progressively overload them over those 6 weeks and have a little bit of linear progression as we want, because they're not too beat up from having to run. So if there's ever a time that they're going to lift, get their leg strength up, get their upper body strength up, get their core strengthened up nicely, that's going to be the time. That's going to be where we focus on those strength lifts, about improving their numbers and getting them completely stronger.
Yeah.
Once those 6 weeks ended, they start incorporating more running. As much as we still want to try build their strength up, we realize that their load in terms of their aerobic endurance training is going to start to come up as well. So we have to decrease the amount of volume that we've been doing during those training sessions. Still try to keep that strength work there as much as possible, but decrease the actual total volume that they're doing. So that 6 week phase where we have them is getting them exposed to as much of that as possible.
Okay.
So that when we reduce the volume, they're not necessarily sore from the lifting sessions, keeping in mind the fatigue that's going to come in with the running on top of that. That running tends to increase all throughout.
Yeah.
Then we'll have a few weeks over Christmas where they'll have a little bit of a break. They'll still have their running program, but we get to lift a little bit more.
Yeah.
Then they'll get into another heavy part.
Yeah.
Which is going to probably last another 4 to 6 weeks, where we're doing very, very similar to that, but we're trying to get them as good as possible for the season.
Yeah.
And then there's another stage where we have to decrease it even more because they start getting into match play.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's where they're going to get knocks. They're going to get beat up.
Yeah.
With here, compound movements are the time that we can introduce at the very beginning. Once, like traditional compound movements, so barbell, squat, deadlift, if we want to do them, they're going to be done then.
Yeah.
And that's still a rarity. If not, we'll still think about those basic movements, but we'll just make it a little bit simpler. You don't have to barbell deadlift off the floor.
No.
You don't have to. You can use a trap bar instead.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You don't have to squat to depth. You can easily do a box squat, goblet squat. It doesn't really matter. It depends on the training age and what the athlete honestly likes.
Yeah.
You can incorporate all those movements without doing the traditional big three themselves.
Yeah.
You're pretty much decreasing volume and trying to keep as much intensity as possible.
Yeah.
And just working on those problem areas, if you will. So make sure the ankles are robust. Make sure
Depending
the
on
hamstrings.
the person. Yeah.
Exactly. So you notice that there's a decrease of volume. The intensity tries to stay as high as possible, but the volume itself just decreases as you get closer to the games.
Okay. Which makes a whole lot of sense because you're going to, if as you get through towards the end of the season, you're not as good as what you started in the season. So
usually your strength, your strength numbers will probably go down because they tend to lose weight. If, let's say, a completely healthy athlete that's looking after themselves, they'll tend to lose weight once that running goes up, just because they're generally fatigued more.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So and that's so it's just kind of incorporating, keeping the little prehab, you'd probably call it.
Yeah.
And then still keep incorporating some lifts, but the way you can lower it is obviously volume, intensity, or even the difficulty of the lifts.
Yeah. Our number one goal is always injury prevention, no matter what we do throughout. But we can actually focus a little bit more on strength. But the closer we get to the season, that injury prevention, just making sure all those little areas are addressed, becomes more and more important as we go along.
Okay, cool. No, really cool. So I suppose, what about if you, might be this, pretty much this, might be the similar advice, but we actually probably haven't spoken about this sort of thing. So if we've got, say if you've got a long-time athlete that's been, they've been training for 3-4 years or something like that, but then they've just had a year off sort of example. So it might be like the ACL guys, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything, would you do anything different for those guys when they're trying to get back into their sport, or is there any particular problems that they run into?
It's usually, volume is the biggest thing for them. So if they're trying to get back into sport, and I'm sure that any weekend warriors that have done this, where they start initially, they've played sport all their life, family commitments, whatever it may be, uni, school comes up, they don't do anything. The biggest issue that comes on is I want to do all that, build myself up to this point, take a massive break, and then reintroduce everything from that point. Injuries straight away. We can, majority of the time, we can incorporate very, very similar structures and very, very similar exercises or sport, what they've done there, just drastically reduce the volume.
Okay, yeah.
They need it. It's just similar story. If you're starting out in the gym, if you do 10 sets of 10 exercises, the first time that you walk into a gym, you are going to be sore as shit.
Yeah. It's going to be hard getting back in there.
Exactly. You gradually increase that volume because they're going to pull up sore probably no matter what they do.
Yeah.
A little bit of muscle soreness is fine. But literally what we'll do with someone is go through a 1x20. I'm not sure if you're feeling, but we'll probably do an exercise, do 20 reps of it.
Yeah.
Very, very light load, if any load at all, and go through about 10, 15, maybe 20 exercises in that session. So it might be 20 squats, might be 20 push-ups, 20 rows, and just go through that.
Yeah.
That's the amount of volume they've been exposed to. They'll still probably pull up a little bit sore.
Yeah.
But at least they're exposed to a number of movements, so they're not going to be particularly sore in one area, or there's not going to be a problem.
And the load's going to be quite low if they're doing that many reps.
If they're doing anything,
they won't be doing,
Exactly.
Especially if they've been out for a whole year or something like that.
Yeah. You have to reintroduce that load gradually, otherwise they're going to get injured.
Yeah. Okay. And what? So you start at the 20, and then you slowly drop the reps and the load goes up, or how does it kind of?
Then after you've done that, honestly, it just depends on the athlete because they'll probably progress in terms of how much volume you can increase because they'll start to get exposed to that. Muscle memory is the thing, so it will come back a little bit quicker than having to develop that muscle and that endurance to it. But then you can start to play around a little bit more. You can make it a little bit more, I guess, structured in this typical 3x10 or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But you start them off at the very basics, doing as many movements as possible to reintroduce all those patterns. But minimize the amount of volume they're actually exposed to. 1x20 is not that much. It goes through maybe 45 to 60 seconds for a complete exercise and you're done.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good way to. There's just so many different ways to get people in the gym, but you're almost restricting them. But they're still getting a workout out of it. You can bump up the reps really high, so they're still getting a workout, but it's going to be compared to a 5 rep max, the intensity of 20 reps is a lot lower, so the load's going to be lower. So there's just so many. It's really cool. There's lots of different ways to do that. So,
absolutely.
I want to kind of talk about a bit more about barbell training and stuff like that. So, when you got your athletes in there, so if you're an athlete, let's keep it on footy. And you want to go into the gym. Do you feel like a athlete needs to touch a barbell?
Depends on the athlete. It depends on how long you've got them for. If you've got someone, let's say once a fortnight, and you'll see them in a massive group all together, you're not going to incorporate too much barbell movements. If you've got someone once a week, but you still got them in a large group, you may introduce a few barbell movements, and that depends on the complexity. Yeah. Pretty much the more often you can see an athlete, the more likelihood you are going to touch a barbell, and then also the complexity of the exercises themselves. If I see someone once every 3 weeks, I'm not going to teach them how to ollie lift because they won't learn how to. If I see someone once a week and they're reasonably competent and that you're going to have them for a long time, you can actually start to teach them stuff.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's got to come down to time dependent, how competent the athlete is and how quickly, and what's the purpose of you
and how committed they are to,
If you have someone for one season, teaching them how to do all the movements over that year and then never having to use them again defeats the purpose of it. Medicine balls, dumbbells, body weight. There's so many other ways to lift, but if you have them for enough time, you'll teach them how to barbell squat if you want. You'll teach them how to deadlift. You'll teach them how to bridge. You'll teach them how to do Olympic lifts. Really comes down to how much they've invested into that.
Yeah. So I suppose like the guy who just plays footy on the weekends and stuff like that, it's probably you can kind of get away with just just staying on the dumbbells or just using we got things like the safety bar and trap bar and stuff like that. They can still get pretty good results out of those.
There's a million ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
It's choose what athlete enjoys and also what's the safest for them. Then you can think about what's going to improve them the most too.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Great advice, man. So, all right, cool, man. I think we should just wrap it up now. So what we need to go through is just tell the people how they can find you on the wherever that it may be.
Instagram, Facebook, and also in Findon, we're located at 30 to 36 Glenelder Street. Or just give us a call.
Great place, brand new. How long you been there now?
It's about to hit 7 months.
7 months. It's
hopefully by the time this is released, it'll be 7.
It's big. It's almost as big as JT's. It's probably about half the size.
He's still probably got me. Unfortunately,
his place is.
He's got a warehouse.
We've got to get him down here. We've got to get him down here. So.
I'm sure that he's going to make the journey out.
Yeah, definitely. But it is a massive place. Compared to it's a great upgrade, and you guys have done really well there.
I appreciate it, man.
So definitely check this guy on Insta and Facebook. That's it for today. So this is Adam, and we help you return to the gym and stay there.